Greetings, everyone. In our classrooms, we can see the students who are probably feeling invisible. They are the ones who are not greeted by others who look past them and start talking to more familiar friends. Or the ones overlooked when their classmates are told to find a partner for an activity. Or the ones who sit silently, seemingly unnoticed in group discussions. One young man described it this way: "The problem is that, to many people, I am simply invisible. Nobody says hello to me, nobody nods to me, nobody recognizes me as a person with something to say. Nobody listens to me. People make assumptions about me on the basis of my color or where I come from. But I am a person and have something to say, both as an individual and on the basis of my distinctive experience." So, how can we help our ESL students who feel invisible? First, let's look at a typical example of an invisible student. This is Kehe. He usually enters the classroom alone and sits near the back. I rarely see him talk to anybody. He told me once that he doesn't really have anyone whom he would consider a friend in our class or even on campus. So he feels lonely. One day, I put students in groups of 3 to discuss an article that they had read. Kehe was with Paulo and Anna. And this is what I noticed. When they first sat down, Paulo said, "Guess what? I just got hired to tutor in the writing center on campus." And Anna said, "Congratulations. I'll have to come there when you are working. When do you start?" And Pablo answers, "Next Monday." Then there was a bit of a silence, and then they started the article discussion. And all this time, Kehe didn't say anything, didn't smile. He just sat there feeling invisible. So what can we do to help Kehe and students like him? I've heard some advice that teachers have given to these students, like practice courage and get out of your comfort zone. Stand tall. Give yourself a pep talk. In conversations, speak from the heart. Not really practical, right? I doubt if any of these would have been useful for Kehe. In the documentary, Becoming, Michelle Obama talks about feeling invisible. She says, "You've got to find the tools within yourself to feel visible and to be heard and to use your voice." So, what specific tools can we show our students that they can use to engage with others and become visible? Here are 2 powerful tools that we can give all our students, especially the ones who feel invisible. After my students develop these tools, I've noticed a positive transformation in the class. The first one is to acknowledge others by using rejoinders. For example, when someone says something, we can let them know that we are listening and we are interested. For example, we can say, "I see. That's great. Oh, that's too bad. Cool." Or "Wow." Let's look again at Kehe, Paulo, and Anna. Again, Paulo says, "Guess what? I just got hired to tutor in the writing center on campus." And Anna says, "Congratulations. I'll have to come there when you are working. When do you start?" And Paulo says, "Next Monday." Now, for Kehe, instead of just sitting there waiting for someone to notice him, he can say, "That's great, Paulo." And you can imagine how Paulo will notice and appreciate what Kehe said. In the notes below, I'll give you a link to my video about rejoinders and another one to where you can download a rejoinder activity that you can use with your students. The second powerful tool that students can use to feel visible is asking questions, especially follow-up questions. In fact, research shows that people who ask questions are considered more likable. And best of all, we can help them develop this technique by including some exercises in our classes. To demonstrate the power of follow-up questions, let's look at two conversations, again with Kehe and Paulo. So Paulo says, I heard a Nobel Prize winner is giving a lecture on campus next week. And Kehe responds by saying, wow, that's amazing. So Kehe used a rejoinder, which is good, but to really let Paulo know that he is interested in what he had said, and to make himself even more visible to Paulo, Kehe can ask a follow-up question. So Kehe asks, what was the prize for? And Paulo answers, the Peace Prize. So in the notes below, I'll give you a link to my video about follow-up questions and another one to where you can download a follow-up question activity that you can use with your students. Briefly, in the activity, students are in pairs. One is student A and the other student B. They are each given a set of questions that their partner cannot see. Then student A starts by reading the first question. Student B answers, and student A has to respond with a rejoinder and ask a follow-up question. And then B answers. And the conversation can continue, or they can do question 2, which student B asks. You can see that the activity is kind of a setup, since they are required to look interested in each other by saying rejoinders and asking follow-up questions. But we set it up like this so that they can all experience the positive feelings they can get from their partners, and also learn how they can make themselves more visible and how they can help other students feel like someone is interested in them. So once the students are familiar with rejoinders and follow-up questions, there are some things that we can do to reinforce them. There's a fun mixer activity that gets students moving around, interacting with each other, asking questions, using rejoinders, and then asking follow-up questions. In the notes below, I'll give you a link to my video about this mixer activity and another one where you can go and download the activity. Another effective way to encourage students to use rejoinders and follow-up questions is to include these in feedback forms. So while students are working in pairs or small groups or even in the whole class mixer, you can easily take notes on how well each student is using these. Then, after a few classes, you can give them feedback. If all the students, visible and invisible, practice these and are encouraged or required to use them, listening and responding to each other will be built into every activity. No one will feel invisible in our classrooms. Also, there tends to be a carryover in that students will use these not just during formal activities, but also with each other when they arrive to class, between activities, during breaks, or as the class is letting out. For students who feel invisible outside our classes, they will have tools, follow-up questions and rejoinders, that they can use to engage with others. As Michelle Obama said, we can't afford to wait for the world to be equal to start feeling seen. If there are students who are feeling invisible around other people, instead of silently waiting for someone to notice them, they can try to interact with others by asking questions and responding with rejoinders. In most situations, others will reciprocate. Thanks for watching.